Happy International Women's Day. So today is the day that we celebrate women getting the right to vote. We celebrate equal pay. We celebrate other human rights that women have accrued over the last 100 years in the Western world. And as a female embodied person, of course, this is like a very, very special day for me and the other half of humanity that are sharing my gender and my sex. So people talk a lot about different things on Women's Day, like, you know, domestic violence, women's rights and so on. And absolutely, these are like huge issues that are really, really important. But there's one thing that I want to talk about today, and I think it's a really, really important topic that actually like ties together all these other topics. And this is about embodied pleasure, and particularly it's about female pleasure. So some people might wonder, you know, what's the correlation? Some people might even think like pleasure is the enemy of women. And indeed, it's been portrayed to us this way for at least the last 1,000 years, that pleasure is our enemy as women. For example, we can easily think of men raping us. We can think of, you know, for hundreds of years, female pleasure was completely dismissed, and it's fair to say that a lot of women did not experience pleasure in marriages, in the sex they had in marriages, because of a bad technique and lack of foreplay, which is really important for women to experience pleasure. So now we're in a new age, we're in a time where female pleasure is more and more starting to be recognized and starting to be revered again, as it was in ancient times when it was revered by the Taoists, by the Tantrists, who realized how important knowing about the G-spot, female ejaculation, also the clitoris were. So crazily enough, in Europe over the last few centuries, the whole, even like knowledge of not even just the G-spot and female ejaculation, but even the clitoris, the female orgasm, it was almost like lost to society. It was lost to a medical industry that was, you know, focused on sort of like medication and focused on operations and so on. And well, around 100 or 150 years ago, doctors started realizing that perhaps mental illness was being caused in women because of a lack of pleasure. And slowly, as things started to become more liberated for all of humanity, not just for women, but for all of humanity, psychologists and doctors started to look more into the female pleasure anatomy. So first we started hearing about clitorises, then G-spots came along. Finally, I've noticed in the last sort of like 10 to 20 years, female ejaculation is getting big up on the agenda, which I am like really into. I think it's like a really, really good, really important thing, because there's a lot of like misinformation where some women may think they're peeing, and because of that, they're actually like clamping and tensing up, and it's stopping them from having orgasms, and it's stopping them from experiencing their sexual pleasure. So the female pleasure anatomy is a fascinating thing, because of course when a boy looks down and he sees his penis and it's kind of there in front of him, it gets hard, it goes small again, it ejaculates, you know, it's just there, you can see it, you can feel it, you know. The young girl, on the other hand, will kind of look down and she knows she's peeing, but she doesn't even know where the pee is coming from, let alone that there's something in there, which eventually she starts to explore. And I mean, personally, I was like quite a late starter. I think I was only 16 when I figured out I had a clitoris, and even then I didn't quite know what the name was, you know. And when I first read about the vaginas and women had holes down there, I was like, what? You know, I was a little bit shocked. But, well, apparently my sister got caught masturbating when she was 8. You know, she got in a lot of trouble, but I'm still like kind of a little bit jealous, you know, that she was, you know, tapping into her pleasure at a younger age, because like I definitely was not, you know. But when I finally started to discover my clitoris, I started just finding it was just really relaxing, really soothing. And I mean, I grew up in a culture that definitely didn't approve of masturbation, but just kind of like starting to just very, very gently just hold my clitoris when I was trying to go to sleep. It was really, was like getting the stress out of my body and really, really relaxing me and basically like allowing me to sleep better. So, I mean, I went through a few years of like really confusing sex where I didn't understand like about my body, about pleasure, about how I was supposed to be getting enjoyment and so on. But eventually, I started to kind of figure it out, let's say, you know, and thanks to discovering about Tantra, about Taoism, I managed to figure out like techniques to start like coming into my sexual pleasure. And I started to learn stuff about my body. So probably like the most, you know, I would say like mind-blowing thing that I learned, you know, and it was mind-blowing both good and bad, you know, but I'm glad I learned it. But it was shocking, let's say, was I guess you could say I started to develop a relationship with my vagina where I stopped seeing it as a hole for him to shove his thing in and then, you know, do his thing. And I started realizing that it almost like completely had a mind of its own and it was its own entity, you know? So I just mentioned shove it in, and vaginas tend to have things shoved in them. So whether you're shoving in a tampon, going down the gynecologist, you know, we're just kind of culturally conditioned to, I mean, they used to say in the old days, lay back and think of England, but this is still very much how sex often is going on, where the female is like disassociating and being penetrated without fully being into what's going on, you know. And I remember I was on this jade egg workshop, so you learn how to put this egg, this crystal egg, in your vagina and meditate with it and exercise your vagina and everything. And the woman got us holding the egg, we were meditating with it, moving it all around our body into our organs. It was really beautiful, actually. And then when it got to the vagina, she said, okay, now stop and connect with your yoni. She said, connect with your yoni and ask her, what does she want? Does she want the egg to go inside? Because if she says no, that's also a really powerful and a really healing thing. And I was like, wow, you know, it never until that point, I mean, I was even, you know, it was the way people thought in those days. I even thought, you know, once I started kissing my boyfriend and he was horny, there was kind of no going back and I had to go through with it anyways, you know. And that's what a lot of people, that we just kind of think, and it's the same thing with the gynecologist, it's the same thing with shoving a tampon inside, that we just kind of think, just shove it in there. And what most people don't actually know is that our vaginas, our pussies, have a reflex to suck. So this is kind of like what the, let's say what the baby, when the baby first sucks on the mother's breasts when it's first born, and it just is a reflex, you know. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing. And obviously, you know, it's involving like relaxing. And then for the giver, so whether you're giving to yourself, giving to another vagina owner, to actually just use a movement like this until you start getting that sucking feeling, you know. But then honestly, before you even do that, you know, like it's good to have like a lot of foreplay, a lot of just gentle touching and exploring, because I mean, part of my job is I give yoni massages, so I give therapeutic vaginal massages to women, and these massages are like really, really very, very gentle. And I've had women like literally burst into tears and just be like, nobody has ever touched me so gently and so lovingly, you know. And what I do, anybody can do, anybody, but it's just that people are conditioned into this roughness with themselves. You know, I guess we could say like men have been taught to be very rough to themselves, and then they presume that we're going to enjoy the pleasure in the same way that they maybe enjoy while they're, you know, while they're masturbating, watching Pornhub or whatever, you know. And it's so important, you know. I'm talking, of course, about men needing to learn, but of course we as women, we need to learn about our pleasure anatomy. I mean, I'm so grateful I got into tantric massage and started doing all these bodywork courses and actually started to learn, you know. I don't just have a clitoris and a G-spot, you know. I actually have like a spot. That's my favorite. I think the A spot, the K spot, the C spot, the U spot. In fact, there's a whole, you know, like a cave full of crystals. I kind of see it as, you know, in there, in between my legs, in between the legs of any pussy owner, where you can just explore like so much sensation, you know. And when we do it slowly, it really opens us up to experiencing like so much more pleasure, you know. But of course, it's absolutely essential when we go into this that we feel comfortable, to express any feelings. So for example, if there's resentment with the person, with our partner, that we're able to speak about this, that we're not holding things in, because if we're repressing emotions, holding emotions in, what's going to be happening is the body is going to be damping down our ability to feel the pain of what we're repressing, which will then also mean our ability to feel pleasure is going to be like really, really damped down as well. So I hope that this video has been helpful. I want to continue on these series talking about full body pleasure. This one's about women. I want to talk another one perhaps tomorrow about men, and also I'll let you know that I'm doing a 5-day challenge. So it's like a 5-day course where you can learn 5 steps towards getting full body pleasure for yourself, and that's going to be starting next week. So the link is below, how to subscribe to the mailing list to get onto the challenge, and I hope to see you there. Bye.